Alrighty, welcome to the 66th edition of Before the Battle. My name is Nick Baldwin, and joining me as always is a writer, an award-winning writer for MMAfighting.com, Jed Meshew, as well as a writer for MMAsucker.com, Wes Riddle. Jed, first off, how are you?
I'm sorry, but you're lying to the good people that follow us. I am not an award-winning writer. I am just a writer for the award-winning MMAfighting.com. I'm doing pretty good, Nick. How about you?
That's right. Just anybody who isn't too sure what you mean by that, check out your Twitter bio and at Jed Meshew. And basically, MMA fighting. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say they did anything wrong by hiring you, but basically, you're not. You're not full of yourself. You're not full of yourself.
I think they did something wrong, but I think they shouldn't have hired me. But I'm not going to tell them if you won't.
Well, hopefully you don't die and force them to find anyone, and hopefully they keep you on their staff list. I mean, fingers are crossed. Wes, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Just trying to get through a busy week. So I brought two. I'm trying to quit drinking sweet tea. So I brought two things of 0-calorie green teas, Arizona. There's no aspartame, no additives, no flavor substitutes. So I'm trying to kind of calm down my addiction with these drinks a little bit. But besides that, it's helping me get through the week. But I'm glad to be here talking about some MMA. Unfortunately, a card I'm actually going to be missing, but I'll be glad to talk and break down some of these fights.
It seems like you're moving on from the good sweet tea or Canadian sweet tea, as some may call it, to basically just garbage. So maybe that may help, because I don't know. To me, zero green tea would taste pretty terrible, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I think for not having drank sweet tea in 3 months and drinking this tastes good to me. So I don't know. It's just a taste thing. It's kind of hard to give up sweet tea, especially when you're from the South, like Mr. Jed and me.
Yes, that.
I just won't do it.
It sucks. It brings you in, and then you can't get out. But I'm trying to get out.
It's funny because as a Canadian, I always thought that sweet tea was non-existent in most of the U.S., but that is obviously completely false.
That's what McDonald's in the North tell you. They don't even know what that is.
Yeah, north of the Mason-Dixon line, it's not a thing. But everywhere else, real places with logic and reason, it's there, and it's delicious.
Canada has logic and reason. It was funny. I was in Ohio. No, not in Ohio. I was in Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota, I believe. Yeah, Minnesota. I was in Minnesota for Diaz McGregor too, and my friend, he didn't know that they didn't have sweet tea, so he ordered iced tea, which was cold tea, and let's just say he didn't like it. I think 10 bags of sugar later. Yeah, I mean, 10 bags of sugar later, he was still sitting there adding more sugar, and it never got good, but I guess that goes to show you how much sugar is in sweet tea.
No, it's hard to put sugar in cold tea. You gotta have the sugar in when you mix it. When it's brewed, son, so it just gets in there.
I'm not a tea master. I don't,
obviously
have a tea podcast or anything like that. Maybe I should. I don't know.
You shouldn't. We're dicking around way too much. Let's get going.
Yeah, I said right before we started that I wanted to make this relatively quick. And again, that's sort of one of those things where it's like I say let's do this quick and we take 2 hours. So it's all sort of relative. But I agree. Let's get going. But before we get into this weekend's card, UFC Fight Night 108, let's check out our results from the last card. UFC on Fox 24, Demetrius Johnson solidifies his status as the pound-for-pound king and perhaps greatest of all time with a just demolition over Wilson Hayes. Taps him out in the third round. Jed, did I do better than third place in DraftKings? What happened?
Do you want the truth, or do you want me to make you feel better?
My guess is no, but feeling good isn't the worst thing in the world.
Well, let's get to picks in general first. This week, coming off a very respectable 9-4 performance, your boy taking home the picking crown right now. I missed Ashley Evans Smith. She obviously lost to Caitlin Vieira. All three of us missed the Sanchez fight. I had Mendez as well. You, Nick, ended up getting that one correct. And then my fourth loss was Michelle Waterson in the co-main event. Coming in second place, that's you, Nicholas.
Wow.
At 8-5, only missing one more than I did. You also missed Ashley Evans Smith and Sanchez. And you missed Waterson as well. All three of us missed Waterson. But you missed Jacare Souza getting knocked out by Bobby Knuckles. And then Jeremy Stevens, you had beating Moicano. You know, I guess maybe you could argue. I think Stevens wasn't happy with that result. But at 8-5, and bringing up the rear this week, Wes Riddle 7-6, just a scotch over 500. He got Ketlin Vieira right, but he was incorrect on Sanchez, Mendez, Nelson, Stevens, Jacare, and Waterson. So that's how our regular picking went. As far as our bonuses, well, all three of us ended up getting one bonus call correct. None of us got fight of the night correct. I predicted Robert Whitaker would get a performance of the night bonus. I was, in fact, correct on that. Both you, Nick, and Wes predicted DJ, Demetrius Johnson, would get a performance of the night bonus, which he did. And then for DraftKings, the belt has come back home to the king, the champion, this guy right here. With a sterling 409 points, I am leading the way. Wes was right there behind me in a nip-tuck affair, 396.5 points. And then, Nick, you had 249 points. It was unfortunate. My picks, my big winners were Tom Duquesnoy, Demetrius Johnson, and Robert Whitaker all got over 100 points. Wes also had 3 get over 100 points. He was on Whitaker, DJ, and he had the Clark win as well. And you had no one over 100. Oh, no, incorrect, Nick. You had Clark, who got 102 points. And
he was my most the pick I was most worried about.
He was, but the Waterson pick hurt all of us. All three of us had Waterson on our teams, 16 points. But the difference really between me and Wes came down to the fact that I had Green and he had Mendez. Mendez only came in with 30 points. Green got 38 points, and that's essentially the difference in our scores. So it was a good contest all around, and I'm excited to see where we go this week.
Well, I clearly haven't gotten the hang of DraftKings quite yet. Don't tell me, but I'm learning. I think that what was it? 249 might have been a boost from last card. I'm not sure, but
I can look. Hold on.
I think I'm going up from here. Maybe not. I could be going down.
Who knows? Oh, I don't have your scores on hand. I'd have to go look them up, and I'm just not going to do that.
Well, let's assume I'm going up because
I like it. It sounds better.
More promising, better in general. Anyways, Wes, anything you want to say, or shall we move on to the future UFC Fight Night 108?
We can move on. I was kind of disappointed with my picks last week, but hopefully this week it'll be a little bit better. But I'm kind of worried because I have a lot of decisions picked. We'll just kind of see as we go along.
I feel like the last 3 cards I've had a lot of decisions, but let's see what happens. Anyways, UFC Fight Night 108 from Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. Bridgestone Arena, that's right, yeah?
I believe that's correct. I'll be attending this one. So
you will. You will. Front and center, media row, Mr. Jed Meshew, the award. No.
You joke.
For the award winning.
You joke, but legitimately, I might be like dead center in media row. There's not going to be a lot of coverage for this event.
No. It's going to be like Mike and Greg's Funky MMA podcast.
Yeah, it's
front and center.
Junkie always has somebody there. And then it's going to be like me and maybe a little bit. They're not even doing a weigh-in. Like they're doing the morning.
Really?
They're doing the early morning weigh-in. They're not doing a like ceremonial or official weigh-in. They're just going to cut pieces up and throw it up on Fight Pass for those who want to watch.
Wow.
Yeah, it's my great hope is that Conor McGregor shows up so I can get some content out of this shit because I'm gonna be there watching nothing, man.
The thing is, I would actually look forward to this whole no one's going to be there, because do you really want to be getting the same content as 50 other? I mean, if you're there almost alone, you're going to be doing one-on-ones almost. I mean, close to it. I mean, those would be my favorite events to cover, if I'm being honest.
I'm not expecting to get a lot of good content out of this anyway, but I intend to have fun. I always like going and doing coverage for an event. Depending on how some fights break down, after the post-fight scrum or whatever, there will be less people, so I can get probably some better questions if I so choose in there. Or if not, this card is kind of shit in a lot of ways, but I think most of the fights are really fun. So there's at least that. They don't mean anything. There are no stakes involved really for almost any of this, but the fights are fun. So I always like to go watch some fights and be down on press row and,
take advantage.
Take advantage and scope it out.
I feel like you're going to be that one guy getting kicked off press row on Saturday because you're drinking or something like that.
I would never do that. But what I envision is going to happen here is Connor is going to show up to support his boy Artem,
and then fight Floyd.
He's not going to fight him, but I'm going to be the only one that can talk to him. So I'm going to be the only person there. So I'll be like, "Hey, Connor, give me a soundbite," and he'll be like, "Here's a soundbite. We just signed it. Boom! Biggest story of the year. Your boy." So that
will make you the award-winning Jed Meshew.
That will. So that's my plan.
Okay. We have not gotten off to the right. Let's do the show quickly, Hop. But
we're not gonna have to talk about these fights long anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Good point. All right, though. That said, let's start out. First fight of the night: Hector Kid Alex Sandoval taking on Danger Matt Schnell. Actually, a flyweight fight I'm actually sort of looking forward to. Flyweight division, it's either just, it's dominated by Demetrius Johnson. You can argue it's shallow. I actually don't mind this fight as a guy who could make his way into the top 15 in the future. Hector Sandoval versus Matt Schnell. Jed, who are you picking here?
I'm taking Matt Schnell. I think he's actually the underdog. According to it's just a little bit of an underdog according to the books. But for me, I mean, I know. So Hector Sandoval's career came in. He in short notice fought Wilson Hayes, got basically obliterated in that fight. And so you can't really take anything away from that. It was short notice. He came in, did his best he could, but whatever. Then takes a win off Freddie Serrano. Good enough win. I was sort of high on Freddie Serrano for a while, but he's kind of just shit the bed enough for me to think that maybe I was overestimating him based on his background and credentials. But to get to the point here, Hector Sandoval honestly is small for the division. He's 5 feet tall or something absurdly short. And Schnell is not. Snell's 5'8". He's going to have a huge height, huge reach advantage. I think 6 inches of height, 6 inches of reach. Sandoval he's a team alpha male guy. He's sort of a wrestle boxer. He's got a big overhand right. He slings in combination, and he stays way out and then leaps in. I don't think he's going to be able to stay way out on Matt Schnell without just getting legs kicked. Schnell does a good job of punctuating combinations with kicks and kind of maintaining range. And then on the ground, I think Schnell's tricky enough off his back. If Sandoval can get him down, that he can create problems for him. So I'm taking Matt Schnell to snatch up a submission. He's got those long legs. He uses them pretty well. So I think Sandoval's going to get kind of tuned up on the feet a little bit and then maybe get a desperation takedown and get tapped somewhere in the middle of the second.
And Wes, what do you think about this one? Are you going with the Mexican Hector Sandoval or the American Matt Schnell?
I'm going Matt Schnell in this one as well. I just don't really know a whole lot about Hector Sandoval's background personally, and I've been more impressed, even though with Shell, he's only fought once in the UFC, but I've taken some time to watch some of his older fights, and I've just been a little bit more impressed with him over what Sandoval's been able to put together. I think now Schnell, he's pretty good with his boxing. He did get knocked out in his debut when he fought Rob Font. But he's a pretty crafty guy on the feet, has a lot of power. He was a Golden Gloves champion. I Also think that he has abilities on the mat as well. He does have a couple submission victories on his resume. I think he's more experienced just slightly with some of the background that he had. And I think he's going to be able to come out victorious. I think he's probably pretty motivated after that UFC debut loss. So I'm going to go Matt Schnell in this one. I think he's going to pick up a first-round knockout. I'm kind of pushing that one a little bit, but that's just because I don't and didn't have that many fights picked for finishes on this card before kind of as we get to the end. But give me Matt Schnell. I'll take him by a knockout in the first.
I was preparing to pick Hector Zandival in this fight, but I did not realize how big of a size disadvantage he's going into this one
He's
with.
tiny, dude. He's tiny. He's 5'2".
I knew he was a classic flyweight, Demetrius Johnson 5'3", 5'2", but I knew Matt Schnell, he just fought a bantamweight, fairly big flyweight, but I just didn't put two and two together. And I just kind of assumed that they were similar in height and reach, but not the case at all. And the thing is, I don't usually look at a reach and say, oh, this guy is 6 feet, not 6 inches, longer arms or taller. He's instantly going to win. But I feel like these skills here are quite evenly matched when you take away the physical component of everything. And then once you throw in the huge advantage there for Schnell, I think he probably is able to outwork Sandoval. Schnell, in my opinion, he did okay up weight class against Rob Font. Sure, he got knocked out. Sure, it wasn't a win in his debut, but it was also on short notice. Again, it was up weight class against a top 15 bantamweight. He did a little bit in that fight, so not the worst outing he could have had, in my opinion. Sandoval looked good in his last fight, picking up his first octagon win over Serrano, but he did start to slow down. That's a bit concerning at flyweight. Schnell. I think Schnell is able to outwork him. Sandoval, not a terrible wrestler. Training at Team Alpha Male, definitely getting better there, but Schnell, his submission game is very interesting. I don't think he submits or stops Sandoval, but I do like Schnell to beat. Sandoval on the mat if it goes there, and definitely on the feet because of the size advantage. So give me Matt Schnell by decision. Next up, we got Brian Bam Bam Barberina taking on Joe Proctor. At 155 pounds. Is that correct? No, I think this is a welterweight. I don't think UFC.com is right. Someone maybe want to check on that because I know Barberina I don't think is going back down. Could be wrong, but I think this one is welterweight. I'll check on that. Brian Barberina or Joe Proctor.
I have it as a lightweight fight. I tried to say that, but I had my mic muted like a dumbass. So, I don't know if that's right, but Tapology and I think the UFC thing has it. So, take that for what it's worth. Anyway, Barberina Proctor. Barberina he's the prospect killer, Warley Alves and who's that other dude? Sage Northcutt. Yeah, that one. He's upended some good little hype trains, and he does it basically just by being like really tough. Like he's got skills, he can compete in basically every phase, and he's just shoe leather tough. And that's a hard combination for emerging fighters to deal with. Somebody who's just not going to be put away, who's going to keep bringing offense, who can keep pressuring, working a combination. Proctor has been out for like over a year due to an injury. I could never figure out what the injury was. Tried to look it up. It just said that he withdrew from a fight with his injury. So I don't know what kind of injury he's dealing with. Proctor is also, Barberina is not really a striker by trade, but Proctor is. Barberina wants to be in the clinch. I think that's where Barberina does his best work. But Proctor is a striker. He's got good power. When he's on the mat, he's an aggressive submission game. But for me, this seems like it's a great fight for Barberina. These two guys are going to be throwing heat, and Barberina is tougher and throws more volume, is a better clinch fighter. And, when all things are kind of close to equal in MMA, I think you just pick the tougher guy. 9 times out of 10, that's going to get the win. I think Proctor's too hittable on the feet. Barberina's volume. Proctor's a cleaner striker, but I think Barberina's just grittier, and so I'm going to get him pick Barberena by decision.
And Wes, do you agree? Are you going with Bam Bam Brian Barberina, aka the prospect killer, or do you think Joe Proctor gets the job done?
Yeah, Brian Barberena really only struggles against people that are wrestlers, and a great example is that last fight when he fought Colby Covington. But Covington's amazingly credentialed with his wrestling background. Proctor, not so much. Also, with Joe Proctor, that injury I feel like might have kind of hurt in a way just because it's been such a long period of time since he fought. I guess it's been probably a year and a half now. And his last win came in June when he got like a submission in the third round with like 2 seconds left over Justin Edwards, who's actually on the season tonight, the new season of Tough. Proctor's inconsistency, injury, and just not haven't been around in the game for a while. And Brian Barberena, his consistency, along with being able to, as you mentioned, Jed, stop some better prospects. I don't think Proctor's going to wrestle, even though he does have some jiu-jitsu. I think Barberena is going to take this one. Maybe some kind of submission late, but I think the better thing to favorite is probably a decision victory. So give me Brian Barberena in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Proctor is well-rounded, but so is Brian Barberena. He's good on the feet, and his submission game is not awful. More his grind game than anything, but he can outwork guys on the mat. I just don't really see where Joe Proctor wins this fight. He's coming off a bit of a layoff. I know Barberena coming off a dominant loss, but I mean, that's the Colby Covington, one of the most promising guys in the division. Joe Proctor is far from that. And I'm assuming, again, this fight is at welterweight, because I know Barberena, I don't think really had ever any intentions of going back down to 155. But again, maybe I'm wrong. Joe Proctor, though, did he ever move up? No, I don't think he didn't. So I don't know. But anyways, Proctor hasn't fought since the end of 2015. So going to be interesting to see how that affects him, but I think Barberena outworks him, gets the job done. It looks fairly impressive. I mean, again, I just don't see where Proctor can win this fight. Give me Bam Bam Brian Barberena. He might be able to get the finish, but I'll go decision. But don't be surprised if we see some sort of late gritty finish from Bam Bam. All right, moving on. Feature Fight Pass prelim. Number 11 women's bantamweight Alexis Davis taking on Cindy Dandois. Probably butchered that. Jed, who do you like here?
Aren't you Canadian?
Oh, maybe.
Shouldn't you know how to say Dandois?
I probably should.
All right. Alexis Davis, Cindy Dandois. This fight is something, man. I don't know how to talk about this one without sounding really mean, and so fuck it, I don't care. I'll just sound mean. When Cindy Dandois makes the walk to the cage and steps in, she will be the worst striker in modern MMA to have ever competed in the UFC. I genuinely believe that to be true. She is her career. I tweeted about this at like 5 a.m. the other day when I was doing tape study. Her career is an anomaly to me. She has wins over Marlos Conan. See, now there I'm butchering some shit for you so you can feel better. She won her professional debut was against Marlos Conan, and she beat her. Marlos Conan is one of the top 5 women's featherweights. I'm definitely the top. She's the second best women's featherweight of all time. And just a storied, like a person, a figure who matters in female MMA. Cindy Dandois fought her professional debut and won, and then she beat Megan Anderson. And I just can't. It's astonishing to me because she is so not good at striking that her grappling game is it somehow proves effective, but at no point when she's fighting do I ever think, oh yeah, she's got this. I'm just watching. I'm like, what? How is this still working? It is an astonishing thing to me. And fair play to her. Good on her to have amassed a very good record over competition that I genuinely can't believe she beat. Alexis Davis is a talented fighter who's, her biggest issue is that she's not really a great athlete. And that, kind of puts a cap on what you can do in the fight sport world in general. but her losses have been to her recent losses have been to Ronda Rousey and Sarah McMahon, two of the better athletes in the division, and it was just like, okay, Ronda Rousey punched her head in real quick and in 16 seconds, and then Sarah McMahon just kind of bullied her around. Cindy Dandois is, I guess, since I should say, she is a grappler. She has like a judo background on the European circuit. In my column that I write for MMA Fighting, this is how I've described her. Cindy Dandois is basically like if a blind person with only a loose grasp of MMA were attempting to build Ronda Rousey and create a fighter mode on a UFC game. Like, she has judo, but it's not, but I don't want to say like, oh, she has Rousey-esque judo. Like, she has tosses and her, she can roll up for arm bars and stuff on the floor, but it's just shocking to me that she has these wins. Alexis Davis is like a BJJ black belt or whatever. She's not getting tapped by Cindy Dandois. She's going to box her up on the feet and then maul her on the ground. Like, if it goes to the floor, Dandois is going to get swept or lose position, and it's just going to end up real fast because, like, yeah, Dandois can grapple, I guess, but, she also got thumped up by Tanya Evinger, so I think this is going to be one-way traffic for Alexis Davis. I've got her getting a TKO somewhere in the second round.
All right, Wes, what do you think Alexis Davis versus Cindy Dandois?
It kind of makes me think about just the fight a little more because I was having a little more faith in Dandois than I think you, by quite a bit.
None. Zero.
I think the only thing that kind of worries me about Davis and why I've been a little weary of picking her is not the fact that she doesn't have a good set of skills, because she is an extremely talented fighter with numerous wins over top competition. I mean, she at one point could have debatably been in probably the top 3 bantamweights in the world. But recently, she's just shown a little bit of inconsistency, and I know that she did take quite a bit of time off after when she fought Sarah Kaufman. I don't know if that was I think that was their second fight, if I'm not mistaken. And Kaufman was getting the better of that first round, and then she came back, got the submission. Well, then I think she had a child, and she came back. She was fighting Sarah McMahon and ended up losing that one by submission. Dandois, she does exceed. She's really, really good with her judo, and I feel like that's one reason why she's got quite a bit of her wins is because she's able to take fighters down. And the fighters that she's fought and beat are predominantly strikers, so Dandois has been able to capitalize on that. You said it, though, Alexis Davis, she is a black belt, and I'm not sure that Dandois, unless, I don't know, Davis is underprepared, I think Dandois' only real chance to get the victory in this one is maybe by just controlling Davis off her back, because Davis has been taken down quite a bit, but she is pretty decent with her takedown defense. So I was thinking about giving Dandois a chance in this one, because, like I said, I'm a little worried about
it. Pick her.
I guess I will. We'll go for it just to have something different. I'm gonna go Cindy Dandois. I'm gonna go. Let's just go. I would say a submission. I'll go decision. I'll go a unanimous decision for Cindy Dandois in her UFC debut, and we'll see what happens. But I am not I guess not that confident.
Jed is celebrating because he just probably defended his picks title for the second time in a row.
I've got one edge up right now.
I'm going to make this short and sweet. Give me Alexis Davis by whatever she wants. Finish, maybe. The fact that she's not too athletic, still recently just had a baby. I don't know if she gets the finish, but I don't see anything in Dandois that makes me, believe that she can beat, a former title challenger. Davis was, she at one point she was one of the best, and I still believe that she still can hang with most of the top fighters. So give me Alexis Davis here. I don't know. I'll go decision, but again, Jed probably is right about a finish. Moving on, we got Jessica Penne taking on Daniel Dynamite Taylor. I suspect probably a fight we're going to go through rather quickly. Jed, what do you think about this one?
I can go as long as you want. I've done most of my I've done all my research.
Please don't
for the
talk about this
undercard.
fight for 20 minutes. Please do not do that.
All right, I'll keep it short and simple because we are dragging more than I would like. And I know Wes wants to watch the tough premiere, so we'll try and quick this up. Penne is hittable on the feet. She got good technique, but she gets hit a lot. On the mat, she's better. She's got good combination of passing, control, sweep, submissions. Taylor's has a background in Muay Thai. But really the thing that matters to me here is Taylor's 5 feet tall. Legitimately, Taylor's 5 feet tall, and she's an atom weight. Like she's not like that's just the reality of the situation. And fighting up a weight class works for a lot of people. We saw last week it has limitations. Michelle Waterston is an atom weight, and she went up against a legitimate good straw weight, and she got her ass handed to her. Danielle Taylor is just giving up 7 inches of reach, 5 inches of height. And where she has failed is getting taken down and controlled on the mat. She doesn't throw a lot of volume on the feet because she stays so far out that she has to explode in and throw a right hand. She's got good power in the right hand, but throwing single shots is a dangerous strategy to try and win rounds. And Jessica Penne may not be like the best wrestler in the world, but sheerly on size and force of will, she likely can just get Taylor down out of a clinch, and on top she'll muscle her around and control her. I've got Penne beating up Taylor for a couple of rounds and getting a submission in the third.
Cool. By the way, Brian Barberina just responded to my DM, and the fight is at welterweight, so UFC.com is wrong. Topology is wrong. Everyone's wrong. There you go. Okay.
Brian Barberina is wrong, and he's going to miss weight hard.
Yeah, wouldn't that be funny? Show up to early weigh-ins. Oh, you're 15 pounds overweight. How coincidental. Wes, Daniel.
Though, that's like a pretty good, like if you're going to blow weight, like it doesn't work for Daniel Cormier, obviously. But if you're like a mid-tier guy and you're like, something went wrong, I'm going to blow weight, just bulk up so you're like right up to the welterweight limit and be like, oh, man, I thought it was I'm dumb, my bad.
Yeah, please don't take any 20%. I mean, the honest mistake. I'll move up to 70 for the next one, but again, no troubles making that weight. Okay, Wes, Jessica Penne, somehow a former title challenger at strawweight, taking on Daniel Dynamite Taylor.
I saw this, and this kind of made me laugh. I'm not going to talk about the fight a lot. Under Danielle Taylor on her UFC profile, it says favorite grappling technique, wrestling and jiu-jitsu. She doesn't specify anything. And then under favorite striking technique, she says boxing and Muay Thai. So pretty much her favorite thing to do in the cage is everything. Yet, I don't know. I think that's kind of funny. It made me laugh.
That's a good way to win at fighting if you like to do all of the fighting.
If you like to do all of it, then I think mixed martial arts is for you. So clearly it's for her. I'm not picking her though. She's just too one-dimensional, doesn't have a lot of output, and she does pack some power, so maybe she could hit Penne because, like you did mention, she is hittable, but I'm going to take Penne. I think she'll be able to just land the better punches, the more accurate punches, and if the fight goes down to the ground, Penne gets the advantage. Give me Penne, unanimous decision, pretty dominant, I think.
Yeah, I like Jessica Penne here all day. Danielle Taylor, she's a striker, but, I mean, not even that. I mean, sure, she can land and hit and maybe even get a knockout, but she's so tiny and she throws so few shots. So the chance, I mean, okay, maybe she lands a Hail Mary blow and knocks out Penne. Could it happen? Sure, probably not. I mean, Penne's not a huge strawweight by any means. She did fight Invicta, but compared to Taylor, she's still much bigger. 5 inches height.
The original Invicta atomweight champion.
Exactly. Yep. So 5 inches taller, 7 inches in a reach advantage, but so they're both what Taylor at one point must have fought at atomweight, right? Probably outside the UFC, I would imagine.
I haven't looked at it, but I believe that she is just an atomweight. I don't think that she's fought her career as like a.
No. I wouldn't.
Hold on, I'm looking it up. It's what the nope. She's competed at flyweight for the brunt of her
Wow.
thing. Although I guess granted, like how many atom weight divisions are there really? You know,
Maybe. Yeah.
like outside of
Even the one
Russia.
championship one is not even 105. Anyways, Penny should be able to win this fight. My only concern with her is that does she really want it? Where is her head at? And also she's taken back-to-back beatings to Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Jessica Andrade. There's a reason those two are fighting for the title next, but the fact is she got beat up, and you could call those career-changing losses, and I would not fault you. Jessica Penne could not be. There's a chance it's not the same fighter she as the one who fought Rana Marcos. Stepped into the octagon against Jędrzejczyk a couple years back. It's very possible, but I still don't think that's enough for Daniel Taylor to win. I think Taylor is sort of lost inside the cage when this fight happens. Penne should be able to light her up on the feet and also win the grappling exchanges handily. So yeah, give me Penne by fairly clear decision. Next up, we got Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman taking on Michael McBride. Jed, who do you like here?
I like the smoke break that I'm going to take for this fight. That's mean because I honestly don't know. So here's the deal. Michael McBride, it's like really hard to find any footage of him. He made his UFC debut, but there's not. You can watch that, but you don't glean anything from it because it's just Nick Lentz beating the shit out of him for like 8 minutes until the ref stops it. Or maybe it was a choke. I honestly don't remember. I just recall Nick Lentz beating the hell out of him. Scott Holtzman, I literally watched like an hour worth of Scott Holtzman fights day before yesterday in preparation for in writing my column, and I mean this with complete seriousness. I cannot recall a single second of any of it. Like it's just, I don't know if it's just the timing or whatever, but I think that to me this is a fight between a guy of which no tape exists and a guy of which is imminently forgettable. So, but the notes I have written down say that this fight comes down basically to the fact that McBride doesn't look to be a very good athlete, and Holtzman can do a little bit of everything and is a much better athlete. And so McBride, the one thing I do remember is McBride is just, it looks to be an awful striker. Maybe I'm wrong, but
no, you're right. You're right.
He in the Nick Lentz fight, he's like firing punches from his hip awkwardly, just like, wow, you're just terrible at this. And Scott Holtzman like is a very forgettable fighter in many ways, but he throws he's a competent boxer, and he's a better athlete, and he's gonna bust up McBride on the feet. I don't know what I picked. I said Holtzman gets a TKO later. I don't, in the third round or second or third round. I'll stick with that, I guess. Wes, it appears Nicholas is down for the count. So why don't we jump to you while he figures out his shenanigans, or this will just become the Wes and Jed show. Anyway, so how do you feel on hot sauce?
I love the position that Nick is currently stuck in.
It's a quality one.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know what the right word is, very poetic, we'll say. The realm of movement.
That's sort of how I feel about this whole fight.
Oh, I know what you mean. I actually like Scott Holtzman. I think he's a cool dude. I think I kind of like watching him fight. I know you said that you kind of forgot about it, but I actually enjoy him as a person. I think that's kind of one reason I'm behind him on this one. And I think he's going to be able to get the job done. I couldn't find any footage on Michael McBride, even the fight when he did with Nick Lentz. There's not that much out there. Very hittable guy, a guy that can be taken down quite a bit. And Holtzman is just pretty gritty wherever the fight goes, on the feet and on the ground. I'm going to take Scott Holtzman in this one. I think he's going to get the second round or maybe a third round knockout. Just not really too confident in Michael McBride.
Awesome. Well, Nick isn't back yet, so I'm running the show now. Yeah, feeling good.
I like it.
So Nick can tell us how he picks this fight that doesn't matter. That's the real problem with this card. Is like a lot of these fights are fun, but there's almost none of them like matter at all. But one of the ones that seems like it's going to matter is up next. Dustin Ortiz taking on Brandon Moreno, two ranked flyweights is the word I'm looking for. There's not a lot of ranked competition going on in this card in general, is there? But this is on the undercard. 2 ranked guys. Dustin Ortiz, the last guy. Oh, actually, was it the last guy to beat Dustin Ortiz? I don't know. I'm going to check that. But I believe the last guy. Oh, no, because Jussier beat him. So Wilson Hayes beat Dustin Ortiz and got himself a title shot. Brandon Moreno, maybe he's going to do the same. DJ does need a new challenger. So what do you have on the Ortiz-Moreno dust up?
I'm going to be going Brandon Moreno in this one, and I think it's because just Dustin Ortiz, he's very – I don't know how to phrase it. It's very easy for opponents to take him down. He's just never had the best takedown defense. He's able to get takedowns of his own in return, but that Wilson Hayes fight, I mean, he got taken down over and over and over. And even the last fight when he fought Makovsky, he was able to squeak out a decision in that one, but, man, he was, again, taken down multiple times in that one. Brandon Moreno kind of gets wild with his takedowns at times, especially as the fight proceeds. Kind of seemed to slow down a little bit in the Madoni fight and just kind of lunge from longer distances, which isn't the best technique, but he's young, definitely has room for growth. I will be picking Moreno in this one. I have him picked. I went out on the limb. I picked a first-round submission because Moreno is pretty crafty with what he can do in certain positions and scrambles. And I feel like that this might be a fight where we don't see too much striking and just a lot of battling for position in the clinch and on the ground. So I'm going to go Brandon Moreno. I think he's going to be one of the first people to submit, maybe the only person to submit Dustin Ortiz. I'm not really sure on that. You'll have to fact check. But give me Brandon Moreno by first-round submission. I think he's going to get the job done sometime in that first round, maybe the opening 2 minutes.
You are correct, sir. Dustin Ortiz has never been submitted, and it appears that we have our third compatriot back, but it's unfortunate for you, Nick, because the show has already been taken over. Me and Wes are running this shit now. You're just a passenger. Deal with it.
Yeah, I'm the guy who is. I mean, it's so unreliable that I'm not allowed to be in charge. It's funny. I heard you take over. I was watching the moment you took over. I went on my phone because my computer was frozen. And yes, you said you were the captain. You were quite happy about that, but I was sitting there just knowing that your dreams would come crashing down in a matter of seconds.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Alrighty, we'll see who's the captain by the end of the show. I'm going Scott Holtzman, by the way, in that last fight. I know you guys moved on. I don't really care to talk about it because it's a bleh fight. Michael McBride just not very good. This fight, since I'm the captain, you talk about it next. Dustin Ortiz versus Brandon Moreno. Who do you got, Jed?
I have Brandon Moreno. I don't know why Brandon Moreno is an underdog. I certainly don't know why he's such a big underdog. Dustin Ortiz loses to guys who can win the scrambles against him, and guys who are better athletes. Brandon Moreno is both of those things, and I just don't get it. I think Moreno has looked pretty impressive since coming off getting bounced out of the tough house in the first round. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage on the feet too. I love a big reach is a huge advantage. I think he's he's improving more. Everything lines up for Brandon Moreno. I think Dustin Ortiz is a gritty, stupidly tough dude, and there's no way Moreno gets him out of the cage. But I do think Moreno is going to find his way to the back and control the fight and win a decision.
This is a tough one. I'm tempted to go with the underdog, the younger guy, the more promising guy in the Assassin Baby. But I'll be honest. I obviously, like everybody, was stupidly impressed with his debut win over Louis Smolka. Everybody was. Smolka was riding high, and he tapped him out early. His next fight, though, in December, it was a win over Ryan Benoit. It was a split decision. I wasn't as impressed. I don't think he was as active as he could have been. I think he could have finished Benoit or has the skills to. He just didn't seem to let it all go. Benoit did much better in that fight than I expected. A little bit of a letdown, but, a win is a win. I like Dustin Ortiz in this fight, not by that much because logic makes me want to lean Moreno just with the fact that you look at Dustin Ortiz's last couple losses, they're all grapplers. Wilson Hayes, Jose Formiga. So it makes sense if Moreno gets the job done. Well, in hindsight, I'm stupid. But Ortiz is getting better. He looked really, really good in the Zach Mikowski fight, and I know it's a completely different matchup, but I don't know. I mean, Ortiz is just so tough. His striking is getting better. His control on the mat seems to be just super good right now, as good as it's ever been. His wrestling, as always, has been good. I just see him being able to control Moreno a little bit. Moreno, he does win the scrambles and will win the scrambles, but I don't know. He's a bit crazy sometimes, and I don't know. This is a tough one. This is a really, really tough fight to call. I'm going to go Dustin Ortiz. I think I don't know. The stand-up is close because, Moreno's not really known for his stand-up at all, but again, nor is Ortiz. I'm not so sure this fight takes place too much on the feet, actually. So, again, going to be interesting. If this fight is complete on the mat, it seems like the logic choice is Moreno, but I'll go against logic as I usually do. Give me Dustin Ortiz in this fight, the slight favorite here by decision. Next up, the last prelim fight on FS2. We got number 11 middleweight Talis Ladies taking on Smiling Sam Alfie. Jed, we said off air that this was, or you guys anyway said off air that this was one of the, if not the toughest fight to call on the entire card. Who do you got?
Excuse me. I do believe this is the toughest, or I think this is the toughest fight for me to call. I am going with Sam Alvey, and it is with a lot of trepidation. Everybody should, by this point, if you're watching this show, you should know who Talis Leitzes is and what he does. Established credentialed BJJ player who's developed a decent pressure-based striking game with some good power behind it. Really tough still. He's definitely older, definitely fading a little bit, but he's still got a good chin on him, still tough to put away. Sam Alvey is like only a counter fighter. He's a great guy, don't get me wrong. And I don't even mean that to sound like a critique, but he doesn't ever lead exchanges. He literally just waits for somebody to attack him and he counter, and he has really big power and very good defensive wrestling and gets to keep things on his feet. The reason this is close is because Alvey throws such low volume when somebody isn't pressing him, that he can just give up rounds just by lack of activity, even if he is the better fighter of the two or whatever. But I think it's a better style matchup for him. Leitzes is going to come forward. He's going to pressure. He's going to give Alvey the openings to counter. And I don't think Leitzes is really going to be able to get to successfully score takedowns on Alvey. Like I said, Alvey's a very good defensive wrestler. So basically, Leitzes is putting himself in the danger zone and won't be able to really accomplish the task he wants out of it. That being said, Leitzes is very durable, so that's what makes this fight close. Because Leitzes is durable enough to wade through the power shots of Alvey, maybe he can drag him to the floor, or maybe he can just pile up punches on the come forward and score more and win more rounds, despite the fact that Alvey lands bigger shots. So I think it's really close. The tiebreaker for me in the deciding was that Talis Leitzes is likely on the downswerve of his career, and Sam Alvey I don't think Sam Alvey's climbing to some historic heights, but I do think he's on an uptick. So you get two guys, one trending down, the other trending up. Everything else seems pretty close. I'm going to take Sam Alvey. I think he will end up being the first guy to get – I don't know if he's the first guy, actually. I could be wrong. Somebody can fact check that. He's going to be the first guy in a while to stop Talis Leitzes, because I don't think he's gotten choked out by Matt Horwich way back in the day, and that's it. So outside of getting choked out one time, he has not been stopped in the cage. So I am going to pick Sam Alvey to be the first guy to get it done. TKO third round.
Alrighty, Wes. What do you think about this one? Smiling Sam Alvey, an underdog here. Let me check the odds.
Sam Alvey is the favorite,
no,
-120.
oh, interesting. Very interesting. Talis Lady is the slight underdog. UFC.com has it even, but I trust other sites more than UFC.com for most things. Who do you got here, Wes? You're muted.
Yeah, I forgot.
Wes.
I had to do that in a minute. This table, I don't know if you hear it. Every single time I put my elbows on it, it squeaks. So I try to like keep my arms elevated as I search, but I had to mute it a minute ago. I was looking at all
We
the.
can't let one squeak on the show. If we do, you're getting kicked off.
I know. I'm trying to avoid that so it doesn't happen. I was looking at Latis, and his losses have pretty much come to guys who are predominantly strikers: Christoph Jocko, Musasi, Bisping, Alessio Sakara, even back in the day, and Anderson Silva, Martin Kampman, all those guys. Matt Horwich did submit him though; that was his only sub loss. Sam is, like you mentioned, just a counter striker. That's why I kind of worry about picking him. I don't have a whole lot to add in this one. Latis doesn't throw a lot of volume either, even though he does pack a lot of power in his punches, which has improved quite a bit. His striking has improved, but his last fight he showed no output, which kind of makes me worried about this one in both regards for either, trying to decide on somebody to pick. But I'm going to pick Latis just because of his durability. It has been there. I'm just not sure if Sam Alvey, who is a powerful striker but just a counter striker, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get the job done. I think Latis will maybe be able to control the clinch, similar to what Elias did in Sam Alvey's fight. So give me Latis. I think he'll take it by probably just a unanimous decision, but it could be pretty close. We'll see.
Yeah, I think this one plays out a lot like the dreadful Elias Theodorou versus Sam Alvey fight as well. Or more dominant for Talis Ladies. I think Ladies is the better grappler, compared to Theodorou, and I think he could probably get it down to the mat. Sam Alvey does have good takedown defense typically, but Ladies is quite the grappler. So I think he will find a lot of success in the clinch and ultimately find his way to the mat where I don't know if he chokes out Sam Alvey. He might. If anything, he controls Sam Alvey for 3 rounds in a bit of a snooze fest. Sam Alvey, though, always dangerous. The fight starts on the feet, of course, so he needs to get his shots going quickly, which isn't exactly Sam Alvey. I think that's one thing that also favors ladies. Sam Alvey won, he's very actually inactive on the feet and the counter striker, so ladies won't be too worried about Alvey rushing forward early and looking and Sam Alvey looking for the early knockout. So that's what it ended the way, and ultimately, ladies is going to take this with grappling. Give me Talis Ladies I'll go unanimous decision. Next up, kicking off the 6th fight, UFC Fight Night 108 FS1 main card, we got a welterweight bout between number 13, Jake the Juggernaut Ellenberger, and Platinum Mike Perry. Jed, we'll start with you. Are you going with the vets here, Jake the Juggernaut, or do you think Perry picks up his biggest win of his career?
I got Mike Perry. I feel pretty good about the pick. It's not that Jake Ellenberger doesn't have skills. At this point, everybody knows the book. Jake Ellenberger is a guy with the talent to be champion. And something just never clicked to get there, and now there's almost guarantee that he does never even get to a title shot. And when he was just sort of making his way through the UFC early on, the idea that this guy would never fight for a title would have been inconceivable. He was obliterating fools. He's one of the biggest punchers in the division, maybe one of the biggest pound-for-pound hitters, in the UFC. But he just doesn't pull the trigger at all. He was cut from the UFC at one point, and then he basically got on a plane, flew to Vegas, went to the UFC headquarters, met with Dana White, and begged for one more chance. That chance ended up being UFC 201, where after hurting Matt Brown, he then looked like he was going to have the most Jake Ellenberger performance ever, because Matt Brown started putting the wood to him. And then he ended up finishing Matt Brown with a vicious body kick. And Matt Brown's always been susceptible to the body, and that ended up saving his career. It got him that other fight. that, his most recent effort was that Masvidal fight. A little bit of controversy. Masvidal was definitely busting him up, but Ellenberger's foot did legitimately get stuck in the cage, and so it was just like a weird thing. But it's just that's sort of a thing that about him. Like you don't know whether he wants to be there, really. I mean, I guess he does because he fought to keep his job, but he doesn't pull the trigger in the cage. He doesn't look like the juggernaut that he did when he first came on. Rarely sort of uses his wrestling anymore. That was the other thing. He hit really hard and he had big, powerful, explosive takedowns. Now, if he throws punches, it's just can he throw one of his few punches and win? And on the other end, Mike Perry is a controversial dude for a lot of reasons, but Mike Perry is a natural fighter. He's got really good hands. He's pretty okay defensive wrestler. But he's the type of athlete that you can expect him to do very big things if he continues progressing. If he would get with a better camp, frankly, that would probably help him out too. But I don't think he's intending to leave, Alex Nicholson in that group at the UFC gym in Boca Raton or wherever they are. But when you've got one guy who genuinely I question whether he wants to be in the cage versus another dude who has 2 face tattoos, like one of those guys is a little more intense and gives way more of a shit. And I think the style matchup is still tough for Ellenberger anyway. All that aside, I like Perry to knock him out and do it impressively and, make a statement.
Wow. Wes, what do you think? Are you agreeing with Jed here and picking Mike Perry, the slight favorite going into this one, or do you think the vet, the juggernaut Jake Ellenberger, can get back into the winning column?
This is just an interesting fight, I think, overall, because Ellenberger, he has shown to kind of be fading recently in recent performances. While then on the other hand, you have Perry, again, a controversial guy, but just kind of looks for the knockout punches in his fights. Ellenberger, not a lot of output and tends to back up and retreat. So I think it's interesting for a couple reasons. I think that this is, for me personally, I just find this is a tougher fight to call just because I feel like they have the capabilities to finish each other, but one is a little overconfident, and that's Perry looking, of course, for the knockout punch. Ellenberger, just no volume, which, and like I said, it just kind of makes it tough to call for that reason. So I am going to go Ellenberger. I've been back and forth on this one. I'm thinking Ellenberger, if he fights kind of back the way he used to and utilize some of the takedowns, because Perry isn't really the best with his defense in regards to wrestling. I think Ellenberger is definitely the better with his grappling capabilities. Can just be able to control Perry if the fight goes down. I don't think Perry's the best off his back. And if Ellenberger can do that, he might be able to pull off some kind of unanimous decision. Not sure how his cardio will be in later rounds. Also not sure how Ellenberger is going to look if he gets tagged a couple times by Perry because he might be on the retreating end. I will go Jake Ellenberger, though. I'm hoping he's going to kind of go back to what he used to do and try to grapple a little bit and make it a grindy fight. And I think that's going to be probably one of the only ways he could win, or maybe if he can just land like a left body kick like he did when he fought Matt Brown. But we'll have to see. Close, interesting fight. I'm going to go Jake Ellenberger, though, by unanimous decision.
Mike Perry thus far has had a pretty good chin in the UFC and in fighting, but I feel like it's a chin that, he takes the shots, but it's not going to be surprising if he just gets his lights turned out one of these times. And this might be the time. Jake Ellenberger, is he the guy he once was? No. Is prime Jake Ellenberger going to show up? No. But is Mike Perry as good as everybody is saying? I thought so until he fought Helen Joben, and then he got clearly appointed, and I started questioning the Mike Perry hype a little bit. Alan Joben is actually a good fighter, but there are holes in Mike Perry's game. He just, as Wes said, he looks for the finish a bit too much. Doesn't put everything together combinations wise, but he is a guy that, give him some time, give him good coaching and good training partners. Barring he loses a couple in a row and gets cut early in his career, he could be around at the UFC long. And, of course, barring any legal trouble that seems possible. Who knows? I'm going to go Jake Ellenberger. I like Jake Ellenberger in this fight. I like him. Oh, this is tough. I'm going to go by knockout. I think he pulls something out of the hat. I think the output won't necessarily be there. Pulling the trigger will be difficult. But when he pulls the trigger, I think he does so with flying colors. I think he lands big. I think he shuts Mike Perry's lights out. I'm glad Wes did bring up the possibility of Ellenberger grappling. I think that's also a good possibility. I think he probably, if Ellenberger wants to win this fight, he probably should do that. Him knocking out Mike Perry or not getting knocked out by Mike Perry seems less likely than out grappling Mike Perry, but you never know. Fighters, they aren't themselves once the cage door locks, and they sort of just go off of instincts, and whether that'll be to stand and bang with Perry or to grapple Perry, we'll find out. I am going to go Ellenberger by knockout.
Y'all are nuts. Just letting y'all know.
Jake Ellenberger, you can call it a fluke. I'm not going to call it a fluke. You can, but she just beat Matt Brown not even a year ago.
Yeah, Mike Perry would probably beat Matt Brown.
No,
I think y'all are wildly underrating Mike Perry. I think he's a really good fighter.
I thought so after his win over Danny Roberts, and then he lost to Joban. I'm terrible at picking Mike Perry fights. Picked against him in his debut.
Yeah, Alan Joban's a really good fighter.
Yeah, I know. I picked against him in his debut. I'm talking about Perry here. I picked against him against Roberts back at 204, and then I picked him against Joban. So I'm 0 for 3 picking Mike Perry. So in this situation, Mike Perry is probably going to blast Jake Ellenberger, but it is what it is. That's my pick, Ellenberger by knockout. Moving on, Joe Lozon taking on Stevie Braveheart Ray at 155 pounds. Jed, who do you got here?
Man, every time you ask, you get a burp coming up. I'll try and keep this as simple as possible. I don't get. I think people might. Do people know who Stevie Ray is? I don't know. I think Joe Lozon is gonna beat him, and I don't really know why he's an underdog either. Stevie Ray got absolutely dusted up by Alan Patrick. I know he made it to the final bell, but Patrick took him down like 36 times or something absurd. Basically took him down at will. And Stevie Ray is a good, competent grappler. He threatened with a pretty decent armbar at one point in that fight, but he never really threatened, and it was mostly just Alan Patrick took him down and controlled him. Joe Lozon, it's questionable where he's at in his career, whether he's on. I think he's definitely on a decline, but whether it's steep or not, I personally thought he beat Jim Miller. I did think he lost to Marcin Held, but he was competitive there. And the thing about Joe Lozon is forever he was known as a dude. He was an 8-minute fighter. He would come and dust you up in the first 8 minutes, or he lost. Like, that's it. If you look at his record, he has won 2 decisions his entire career, and I believe one of them is the Marcin Held split decision, which I don't think he deserved, and I don't recall off the top of my head what the other one is. But he's improved about pacing himself, about staying in fights longer later. And he still brings, I think, on the feet, Stevie Ray is a better technician. He moves better at distance. But that's sort of Stevie Ray's thing, is he spends all of his time setting distance, hitting those snap kicks, working a 1-2, a lead left hand, and just staying at range and circling. But he doesn't throw a ton of volume, and he doesn't sit out all that often on his punches. Whereas Joe Lozon, is just going to be in his face, pressuring him. If it gets to the clinch, I think Lozon's going to bust him up in the clinch. Joe Lozon's a pretty good clinch fighter. And I think Joe Lozon has the chops to get him down. He's going to take down Stevie Ray, control him, beat him up. I think he's going to win a decision. I think Stevie Ray can hang tough for a while, but I think Joe's going to put the wood to him. So that's my call. Joe Lozon by decision.
Wes, what do you think about this one? Stevie Braveheart Ray, the Scotland fighter, taking on the American Joe Lozon.
I'm going to go Stevie Ray in this one. I think this is a pretty closer fight. Kind of another one that I think is closer than you, Jed. I think it's just because I think Stevie Ray has evolved quite a bit from kind of where he started. He even before he was in the UFC, he was showing holes in his grappling and his wrestling. And Stevie Ray, I think he probably has about 6 losses on his resume. I'm going to check as I talk, but he lost to quite a bit of grapplers, and of course Lozon is one of them. I just kind of wonder. Lozon is in this game. He's still a very, very talented fighter. Still has the capability of beating numerous fighters. It's just the hurdle of him cracking into the top 10. He hasn't been able to do that at all recently. And his fights have always been pretty close. These past 2 that we've seen, both the Miller fight and the Marcin Held fight, you could switch the decisions if you wanted to, because they were both pretty close. But they were also pretty scrappy, and I feel like both had some moments in it. And I kind of see it being a fight where Stevie Ray can engage in that kind of scrap with Lozon, because I think Lozon enjoys some of the stuff that goes down on the feet. For that reason, I think it could be a pretty interesting fight, especially if Lozon keeps it standing. Lozon might be able to take it down, but I'm pretty confident in Stevie Ray. I'm hoping that his abilities and his defensive abilities have improved quite a bit. I think that Alan Patrick fight helped kind of figure out where he is. Now, Patrick, though, is a very, very good and he has a lot of credentials in some of the stuff that he's done with grappling too. So Lozon as well, I think it's just a close fight. But I'm going to go Stevie Ray. I guess you'd call it an upset. I don't know how big of an underdog he is.
Ray's the favorite.
Ray is the favorite.
Yeah.
Then it's a little shocking. I think he should be the underdog in this one, but
he's a big favorite. He's like a -220.
I honestly had no idea, but that's kind of it's just interesting. I feel like Lozon would be the favorite to win, but I don't know. I'm gonna go Stevie Ray. I think he's come a long way. Just needs to keep the fight on the feet and keep Lozon guessing, but interesting fight.
I am not surprised that Stevie Ray is the favorite, because he is the up-and-coming sort of guy. Joe Lozon is on his way out. But, yeah, if it gets over 200, that's a bit crazy. This should definitely stay below 200. I mean, -120. I mean, let's be honest, it should probably be -110, -110. But, again, I'm not going to complain too much about the odds, because they ultimately don't really affect my viewing pleasure. I'm going to go Stevie Ray here as well. I like him to outpoint Joe Lozon on the feet. I think Wes hit this one hit the nail on the head here perfectly. I don't feel the need to add too much more. I just feel like Joe Lozon, he should grapple, but I'm not confident he will. Stevie Ray, definitely his biggest weakness is probably his defensive wrestling, as we saw down in the Patrick fight. I'm hoping, though, him going up against a career grappler that he has tightened that up in the past year or so. I believe the fight happened sometime late 2015. I forget, maybe mid 2015. So it's been a little while since that fight, I do believe. I was impressed with Ray against Ross Pearson. I like his striking against Joe Lozon. I think he's, if it stays on the feet, Stevie Ray will win. It just comes down to whether it does stay on the feet. I will say for most of the fight, it does. Give me Stevie Ray, therefore, by unanimous decision in what I guess you can consider the biggest win of his career. Kind of a random thought. Joe Lozon versus Ross Pearson. That's not a fight that has ever happened, is it?
No, it has not.
That is weird. That feels like a fight that should have happened probably 5 times by now.
I think if Lozon were to lose this one, that might be a pretty possible fight for them to make, just in the terms of matchmaking. And I think it would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, what did Ross Pearson do last? Was the Ray fight, maybe?
His last fight, I believe, was the Stevie Ray fight, and that was, I think, his 5th fight in 2016.
Yeah, that sounds right. So, yeah, I mean, I would dig that fight. Give me, in your little matchmaking column on Saka, give me in the at the end or whatever, italic, little font. Credit to Nick Baldwin for that matchup. Ross Pearson versus Joe Lozen.
I like
I'll
that
take the
matchmaking,
royalty.
Nick. I like
I'll
that
take the
matchmaking.
royalty. Good. I do too. Okay, moving on. John Dodson versus Eddie Wineland, one of the best matchups on the entire card at 135. Jed, the Magician, is a big favorite. Do you think he gets the job done against the vet here in Eddie Wineland?
I do. I think this is a good fight. It could be a really competitive fight, but in the end, I really like John Dodson as a fighter. I really like him as a bantamweight. I really like him as a flyweight too. But I think he's one. I think he's probably the second or third best flyweight in the world. And when you're that good at the division below, you're obviously usually really good at the division above. Take a look at Donald Cerrone. I think Eddie Wineland is a very serviceable guy. I also think Eddie Wineland is gonna get beat here and maybe knocked out. John Dodson is just like such a tremendous athlete. He's one of the fastest guys in the sport. He hits stupidly hard. I thought he beat John Lineker. I thought it was a pretty clear, close competitive fight. I thought he definitely should have gotten the win. And then, got jobbed. And, if Dodson beats Lineker, then maybe he's facing TJ Dillashaw in a rematch, and that's a fucking gangbusters rematch. Because, I think I'd favor Dillashaw there, but maybe Dodson wins again, and then Dodson's fighting for a title. So, unfortunate for him. I think Eddie Wineland's a very good fighter. He's a crisp boxer, works a really nice jab, good combinations, good head movement. Pretty good counter boxer, and very, very good defensive wrestling. This is a kickboxing match. Neither dude's going to really go for a takedown. Wineland does have a little bit of height, a little bit of reach. I think Dodson has a lot of speed, a lot of power. I favor speed and power to carry the day here. I think John Dodson's going to get a knockout in the second round. That's my call.
Wes, John Dodson, a big favorite, I believe 4-1 or so against Eddie Wineland. Who do you got?
Yeah, John Dodson, I'm going to be favoring him this one. I have him picked by a first-round knockout. I question a couple things about Wineland. I do love, I'll say this, Wineland's technicality. I think that he might be able – I think he puts together combinations better than Dodson, but Dodson has been able to get the knockout victories, and he's very technical in his own regard. I would just give Wineland a slight advantage when it comes to that aspect. But the power Dodson has is just – absolutely devastating, and he's been able to stop numerous guys with it, been able to question a lot of fighters he's fought with it, and he's also in recent fights mixed up some grappling abilities as well, and a great example of that was the Zach Makovsky fight he had before he fought Demetrius the second time. It's a pretty interesting fight. I wish Wineland had a better chin, because if he did, I think this would make for a more exciting fight. Or not even exciting. I think it'll be exciting either way, but at least last a little bit longer. But I do think Dodson's going to be able to get the job done and possibly get it done pretty quick. So I have John Dodson picked by a first-round knockout over Eddie Wineland.
Yeah, I mean, this fight is going to take place on the feet. I think it's fairly simple. The hardest sort of thing to predict here, in my opinion, is whether John Dodson finishes. Eddie Wineland has done better recently than I thought he would. I kind of expected him to do fairly bad, but he seems to have rebounded a little bit anyways, back in the top 15 at bantamweight. Good to see. Not quite retired. I mean, if you would have asked me, 2 years ago, is Eddie Wineland after the jaw break and everything like that, after the Caraway fight, is he still fighting? I would have said no. Here we are, though, nonetheless. I definitely picked John Dodson, obviously, but I think there's a good chance he does not knock Eddie Wineland out. Wineland, he is still quick, not as quick as Dodson, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is able to avoid a lot of Dodson's heavy shots, but I don't know. That said, John Dodson just too dangerous. Wineland has been knocked out before. I'll go Dodson by knockout, I'll say in the second round, but I think this fight could be fun if it does last longer than some people think. Next up, we got Vincent Peru taking on Marcos Ruggiero de Lima in a very important fight, not because he's next in line for the title, but because he could be next in line on the chopping block if he does not get past Pei Zhao here. Jed, are you going to go with the American or the Brazilian?
I'll be honest, I haven't really watched a ton of tape on this one. And by a ton, I mean none. I'm yet to get there. I'm finishing up all my tape study tonight because I'm going to Nashville tomorrow, and I don't want to have to do any of it while I'm there. So this is going off recollection and a little bit of fight metric stats. But recollection is that Marcos, basically I'm fading Marcos Ruggiero de Lima here. He's a guy who throws like everything and the kitchen sink in the first like 5 minutes, and he hopes that sticks to the wall, and if it doesn't, he loses. Like he's gonna come out, he's gonna wing just a friggin' haymaker from the hip at you, and he's gonna pound on top, and he's just gonna snatch things and slams, and it's just so much energy exhausted so quickly that if you break under it, then you're gonna break, and maybe he can do that to Ovince St. Preux. OSP is on a skid right now, 3 in a row, starting with that John Jones win. I was the one guy in the world to pick Ovince St. Preux to upset John Jones. And I'll tell you, I didn't do it thinking that like he's a better fighter, but I was like, if John Jones is going to lose, this is going to be the one to lose. And frankly, I feel justified in that pick because afterwards everybody was like, man, John looks so shitty. And I was like, yeah, exactly. Because Ovince St. Preux is tricky. He's enormous. He can almost match John Jones's reach. He has stupid power. He's kind of tricky and crafty on the ground. It's a completely different style matchup, and John's been out so long, he's going to look rusty. So I was wrong in that my process was correct. The outcome didn't end up the way I wanted it, but all of my reasoning was right there, and so whatever. And I feel legitimized. Suck it, everybody.
Here he is. If you had been right, he could have been the champion by now, but here he is fighting for his UFC career.
No, he wouldn't be the champion. DC would beat the shit out of him.
Hey, if he beat John Jones, anything's possible.
We're moving on because we're trying to get this done. OSP is a way better athlete, I think, than Marcos Ruggiero de Lima. I think he's a little more schooled, a little more technical. If de Lima hits him, OSP's chin is maybe not the best. I mean, Manoa is a really hard hitter, so maybe don't take anything away from that. But, de Lima can knock him out. I don't think he's going to. OSP is going to debo him. I think he's going to get a stoppage in the second round after de Lima gets tired out, whether it's a funky submission or he just blasts him in the face with that 80-inch reach. One way or the other, OSP take it to the bank.
Wes, Vincent Preux taking on Marcos Ruggiero Pezao de Lima. Who do you pick here?
I'm going to go OSP in this one for a couple of reasons. First off, I'm a little biased, but I've always been a big OSP fan. His cut man is a good friend of mine, so I kind of always pull for OSP in his fights. His skid has been a little bit concerning. One thing with OSP is that he's not he's fairly one and done, and I feel like it kind of comes with his background when he was not a wrestler, excuse me. He was a wrestler, but also when he played college football. You kind of get used to that ability to exert energy in certain periods of time and quick forces, and then kind of reserve and lay back a little bit, but go as hard as you can for a couple seconds and then release. And that's what OSP has kind of shown in his fights too, and that's how he's been able to get a lot of his wins in the UFC pretty impressively too, by quick knockouts kind of out of nowhere that you don't expect. And two great examples were both the Pat Cummins fight and the Shogun Rua fight. Two shots that you didn't really see coming, two vicious left hooks, that dropped his opponents and was able to get the knockout there. I know Ruggiero de Lima, he does exert his energy so fast. You mentioned the Jed, he just likes to throw and throw and throw. And that's kind of what cost him when he fought Antigulov in the fight back in November of last year. Ended up getting caught in a guillotine choke, and then the Nikita Krylov fight was taken down and rear naked choked in that one. Lima can definitely and has the ability to probably finish anybody in the weight class, But I could say that about anybody. OSP could too. So could Jimmy Manuwa. So could Daniel Cormier. So could John Jones. I could keep going. Just that weight class has a lot of fighters who have the ability to get it done quick, but don't. And that's kind of why we see some of the thinness in the division, I think. I'm going to go OSP in this one. I'm pretty confident. I hope he doesn't expel his energy as much. I hope he's been working on his cardio. I think that's one thing that has hurt him in some of his fights, especially in that Jimmy Manuwa fight, and even the John Jones kind of faded late. I'm going to take OSP. I have him picked. I don't have fantasy up, but I think I had him picked by a first or second round knockout. I'm pretty confident in it. I just don't. Lima's wild. He reminds me of Godofredo Pepe in a way, where it's just he goes all out and he might get it done or he might not. And that's kind of why I'm kind of leaning against him. I think OSP is a guy that can kind of be careful in the opening round to kind of avoid it, and then maybe land that shot some point late in the first or in the second round. So give me OSP.
This is a shit show of a matchup. I don't know. I wish I could fade both guys, honestly, because Vincent Pereira has not been himself lately. He's not been that promising guy that, well, could be, next in line for a title shot one day or whatever. And yes, he fought John Jones and looked okay, but I think that was more a case of Jones looking bad, of course. But yeah, I mean, getting starched by Jimmy Manuwa doesn't help, and then losing to
why did he look bad, Nick? He looked bad because OSP made him look bad.
OSP needs a win here, and it's in Tennessee, so that's probably good, although he did lose last time he fought here to Glover, so maybe not. Maybe the arena jinxed him, who knows. But Marcos Rogério de Lima, he is not, I don't know. This is just such a weird matchup. Vincent Pereira should win this fight. Marcos Rogério de Lima should look for the knockout quick and not find it and gas out and get TKO'd in the second or third round. But, I mean, does really that all happen? Maybe. Vincent Pereira, though, he just hasn't looked good. He's giving fights away. I mean, he should not have lost to that Ozdemir fight. I don't know much about Ozdemir. I'm sure he's better than people thought, but still. And even the Jimmy Manuwa fight. I mean, Manuwa has been on a tear, but again, I don't know. There's no shame in losing to Jones and Manuwa, but I don't know. OSP just it really leaving a bad taste in my mouth lately. Not as high on him now as I was even a couple of years back. I'll pick him because he's the better fighter. He's a better athlete. He's bigger. He should be stronger. He's less wild. He's smarter, and he has advantage most places here. Marcos Rogério de Lima, sure, he could land something and put OSP away, but the chance of that happening are very, very slim. That would have to happen early. I like OSP here. I'm not confident, though, because although he's a better fighter and much better, in my opinion, De Lima, I don't know, he can pull something out of the hat, and also OSP, fade OSP is sort of the way I'm thinking nowadays. I'm going to go St. Pereira, like I said. I'll go De Lima, he might survive, but no, he gasses too badly. I'll see OSP by ground and pound TKO in the late second round. I don't think this will be pretty, but I do think it'll be back and forth. Maybe De Lima might have his moments. OSP, though, gets the better of the exchanges and grappling, if there is any. Give me OSP by TKO in the second. That brings us to the co-main event of the evening, the return of raging Ally Quinta, who has not fought in over 2 years, taking on who is now the Lionheart. He's not the Dream. He's not the Nightmare. He is the Lionheart, the tough one winner, Diego Sanchez. No, I don't even know what I said. Ally Quinta, Diego Sanchez. Wes, we will start with you for the first time tonight. Who do you like in the lightweight matchup?
Oh, man. I like this one. I wish kind of happened, I guess, I don't know, a couple years ago. I'm leaning Ally Quinta in this one, of course. But there's a couple things that concern me. And the biggest one, I was listening back a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, actually. to Al talking about the fight on the MMA Hour with your boy, Ariel Helwani. And he was talking about, I think Ariel was asking him some questions about the fight itself. And Al's responses to it didn't seem great. I don't know the right way to put it, but how he was approaching it were pretty much questions that he was asked. Al's responses were, "Oh, I don't even know if I'm fighting on the card," or I think I'll show up. I think I'm fighting Diego Sanchez. I don't know if he was joking. Definitely could have been, because he is a pretty funny dude. And does have a funny side to him, but I kind of question where he's at. I know that he wants to come back and fight, but I feel like he may not have been on the best terms with the UFC. I know he was pretty confident and happy with his job that he did have outside of the UFC. And now he's kind of coming back after, I guess, a 2-year layoff since he fought Jorge Masvidal in a very, very close fight that Jorge did win. And he hasn't had a knockout since the Joe Lozon fight, so it's been a while. We don't really know where Al Iaquinta is. I haven't seen any training footage of him. That's kind of my own fault, though. I don't really pay attention to a whole lot of it. And Sanchez has put together a 2-1 record. He was able to beat Jim Miller and Marcin Held pretty, I wouldn't say impressively, because they're both kind of later on in their career, but a win's a win, and that does make it impressive in its own regard. So Sanchez, he's been active, but he does have a questionable chin. I feel like his fight IQ is not as good as Al's, and I think that Al has just a couple more tools in the bag to get the job done, because he does know how to wrestle. Doesn't really utilize it too much, but he can do it if need be. And I think that he's just a little bit younger in his fighting career. Diego's getting older in age, and his fighting career as well. For those kind of reasons, I'm going to go Al Iaquinta, but I'm actually not too sure on this one, but we'll see. I'll take Al Iaquinta. I think he's going to get a knockout, come back on a good note and a strong note. So I have him picked by a second-round TKO over Diego Sanchez.
Jed, Al Iaquinta versus Diego Sanchez. Who do you have here?
I don't care.
All right, next main event time. Here we go.
Al Iaquinta is going to win, most likely, assuming he cares about fighting at all, which is a big assumption. He retired, and then I'm still not really sure why he's returning.
Probably because he realized starting
real estate's not like a great. Yeah, it's obviously not, but like I don't. When he retired, he was like, "Oh, it will cost me more to fight than I'll get paid at New York," which is very like, I don't want to call the man a liar, but that's just not true. It's definitely like not cheap, obviously, to train to fight, but you can also just work within your means, man. I think fighters should all get paid way more than they do. That's on them. They should negotiate collectively as a group of athletes does in every other major sport in the country. But all that aside, I have no idea where his head's at or if he wants to be here. Obviously, Diego Sanchez wants to be there and wants to be fighting, but Diego is, maybe not shot, but going that way. If this was 2 years ago, Al Iaquinta would beat the ever-living snot out of him. I still am inclined to believe that even an Al Iaquinta who maybe doesn't care is still good enough to beat Diego. However, Diego is like really good at winning shit decisions, so that's always a fun thing to be concerned about. But Iaquinta is a way better striker. I don't think Diego can take him down, and that's the long and short of this fight. If Al Iaquinta is even half what he was before he left, he's going to win pretty handily. Decision.
Yeah, I like Al Iaquinta here by decision as well. I'm not going to take too much time here. I don't know. I guess Diego Sanchez, maybe he can score takedowns and grind out a win. But the thing is, I'm not confident here but not because Al Iaquinta is a bad fighter. It's because one ring rust. He hasn't fought since his win over Jorge Masvidal in April of 2015. That was a long freaking time ago. And since then, he has been mad with UFC, been mad at just about everybody, been in real estate, been out of real estate, retired, unretired. I mean, Where the hell is this guy at? I don't know. Nobody knows. We won't know until this fight. Does he really want to fight? I don't know. I mean, if I was to say, gun to my head, I would probably say no. I mean, does he really want to fight? I would say no. I think he just realizes, hey, starting in real estate, not the easiest thing. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. I didn't. I need money. It is what it is. I mean, he's going in there. He's complaining about the money he's making, but he's still taking the fight. He just wants a free plane ticket to Nashville, he says. I mean, does this guy really want this fight? I don't know. I mean, it seems like the answer might be no. Can't go off that completely, though. He's still skill-wise so much better than Diego Sanchez right now. Sanchez on his way out. Sanchez still tough, and Sanchez can still pull wins out of the hat. No one really saw him beating Marcin Held, or not many, and he got the job done. So you never know. Maybe the new Lionheart nickname will help him. Maybe it won't. Who knows? I'm going to go with the Raging Man here. I like Quinta by decision. But hey, if this fight would happen 2 years ago, I'd be all in on Iaquinta. But now, Iaquinta at minus 400, that's a bit steep. All right, moving on. We got the main event of the evening, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but we got Killer Cub Swanson taking on Conor McGregor's training partner, Artem Lobov, in a 5-round featherweight main event. Jed, you're going to be there to see Artem Lobov's historic first ever main event in the UFC. It's going to be a legendary night. Who do you have, Artem Lobov or Cub Swanson? This is a tough question.
I'm so mad that, the first event I ever got to go to coverage for was UFC 201. It was in Atlanta. This next event that's anywhere geographically within the realm of me being able to attend without it being like a trip comes, and it's Cub Swanson versus Artem Lobov. Like, what the hell is that? I don't care about this fight. It doesn't matter. The fight only matters if Artem Lobov pulls the upset, and if he does, fair play to him, but I can't imagine it's going to happen. I think Artem Lobov is actually a way better fighter than he gets credit for by most people. He has about 500 record, but most of that's against pretty good competition, and doing 50% against really good guys that's respectable. But he has tiny T-Rexy arms, and Cub Swanson is a very talented boxer and a way better ground fighter than Artem Lobov. If Lobov could maybe, he can hit him, maybe he can do it. He can't. He's just going to lose. And it's Conor McGregor, forget every other metric. I am the last holdout on the Conor McGregor is not the biggest star in the UFC hill. I held out on that hill because Ronda Rousey is still a household name that my mom and my sister know about, and she reaches such a different demographic that I thought maybe people know Conor in general. There are a lot of people, more sports fans probably know Conor, but just random suburban moms and stuff know Ronda Rousey. I think so. By that metric, I always thought she was a bigger star. But we can put the debate's gone because Ronda Rousey got her best friends in the UFC. Good for her. Conor McGregor got his training partner a co-main event spot. It's unbelievable. I can't imagine that this is a thing that's going to happen. I hope it's at least a fun fight. It should be. Lobov is going to probably brawl it up and throw hands until the point that he goes to sleep. So, Cubby Swanson, knockout, second round.
All righty. Wes, Cub Swanson, Artem Lobov. I'm going to guess you're picking Cub Swanson by demolition, but if you're going the other way, state your case, my man.
Oh, I can relate. First off, I'll say this. I'm muted again. No, I'm not. I thought I was. I had it muted a second ago. I relate to you, Jed, for this reason. I am up here in Virginia and you are in Georgia, and the UFC just does not really enjoy coming to the south of Sweet Tea, which I feel like they should expose themselves to more often. Um, but oh well. So I kind of feel you, but I'm actually missing this fight card. I don't know if I'll be back in time, but if I am, I feel like the only fight I'm going to be able to watch is this one. And out of all the fights, this is one I don't care about. But I don't really know what to say. I did count. I'll say this much: Lobov out completely in his last fight. I thought Taruto would just wreck him in all ways, but Taruto
Did not.
He did not. He relied too much on single shots, and Lobov put together some fantastic counters. And I said this the other day. The main event of Saturday night's card is a 13-12-1 and 1 no contest friend of Conor McGregor fighting the number 4/number 5, if you count the champion of the division, Jose Aldo, fighter in the world at featherweight. Cub Swanson, a very, very technical striker. He's going to have a reach by 5 inches in this one. Lobov just does not utilize his reach well, even though he tries. He does it well in some regards, but it's going up against a guy who has a reach like Cub Swanson does, a reach advantage at least. It's not going to be good for him. And also in regards to the grappling, a lot of Lobov's losses have come against grapplers and fighters that have controlled him in the clinch, and Cub Swanson can definitely do that. A Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, an astound, and a very, very good wrestler when he utilizes it. Just doesn't rely on it a whole lot because he has shown some pretty impressive knockouts recently, and also some pretty impressive fights that he's been able to put together. So I'm going to go Cub Swanson, of course, in this one. I just don't see Lobov having any way. I'm surprised I've talked about it this long just to get the job done. Cub Swanson's better all around, a better athlete, and he's going to be able to probably put away Lobov pretty quick. I imagine it being Swanson taking him down and just a ground and pound knockout there in the first round.
Cub Swanson, knockout, round 1, book it. And that does it. Let's move on to our performance bonuses, our performance of the nights, and fight of the night. Jed, you go first. Who'd you got?
Can I have you guys built your DraftKings teams on the contest I made?
I have, yes, but I may be changing it.
Well, I can't get back to find my contest.
Ruh-roh.
So I may have to redo this, but I was trying to look up my lineup, but that's
redo it, and then I can re-enter my new one.
It's not letting me redo it. So I'll have to do it the next couple of days. But
that's fine.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're doing
performance
bonuses.
Yes.
My fight of the night is going to be Iaquinta Diego Sanchez. I mean, Joe Lozon, obviously usually a good guy to pick for a performance bonus somewhere in there, but I do think Sanchez historically puts on good fights. Think Iaquinta, maybe that's good. Frankly, I don't know. I'm probably almost immediately regretting this, and it should just say Ortiz Moreno, but I'm going to stick with it because I already wrote it down. I don't want to have to do it anymore. As far as performances, I got Cubby. I think we're all probably going to end up having Cubby on our team. And I got Mike Perry. So,
alrighty, Wes, who do you got?
Cool. I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to go Joe Lozon, Stevie Ray for fight of the night. They just stylistically have could make for a very good fight on the feet. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's my pick for fight of the night. 2 performances. I'll give one for Cub Swanson, even though I'm a little conspicuous because I wonder if they'd give him a performance for knocking out a guy that's not even ranked. But I'll go ahead and say Cub Swanson. My second I will give to John Dodson for his stoppage over Eddie Wineland.
This is a tough one for fight of the night. I'm tempted to give it to Dawson Wineland. I just don't know if Wineland can do enough to, before he gets stopped, to earn a fight of the night. I'll go fight of the night: Jake Ellenberger versus Mike Perry, and performances: good old Cub Swanson and John Dodson. Okay. It is time to share our DraftKings teams. Wes, do you have that ready to go?
I do. I'll go ahead and run through it. Of course, I like to take risks with DraftKings. I think it's always kind of fun. I felt like there were some pretty decent prices on fighters who could get finishes. I lost my lineup. Hold up. Let me pull it up again. My lineup for this card, I have Sam Alvey, John Dotson, Jake Ellenberger, Brandon Moreno, Stevie Ray, and Matt Schnell to make
Give
up
me
my
that
six.
one more time, Wes.
Sure. Sam Alvey, John Dodson, Jake Ellenberger, Brandon Moreno, Stevie Braveheart Ray, and Matt Schnell.
All right. Nick, what about you? Give me your lineup while I try and
Alrighty.
finish
My
building mine.
team does not quite follow my picks, but that is okay. One of them is a bit of an underdog guy. Well, two guys are underdogs. But anyways, I got Talis Ladies. I have Jake Ellenberger. I have Brennan Moreno. I have Diego Sanchez. I have Cubba Swanson. And I have John Dodson.
Okay. I don't remember if this was the lineup I built for the contest, but like I said, since I can't get to it, I believe it is this though. Cub Swanson, like I said last time doing DraftKings, I very much like to pick the guys I feel most confident are going to get impressive victories and then fill in the gaps around that. So Cub Swanson, like I think he's going to blow the doors off Artem Lobov. Mike Perry, I know y'all are picking Ellenberger. Good on you. I'm pretty confident Mike Perry's going to dust Ellenberger up. And he's a peach at $8,400, not even that expensive. Joe Lozon, only $7,400. Huge fan of that pick as well. Brandon Moreno, $7,600. Like all of these guys are people I'm picking to win outright, and they're all cheap. Except for Cub. Cub's like almost $10,000. Jessica Penne, we all, I believe, picked her over. We did all pick Penne over Danielle Taylor, and then Sam Alvey. That could backfire. Like I said, it's a really close fight, but I am predicting Sam Alvey gets a KO. So, figure might as well run on it, ride it out.
Alrighty, well, I believe that is it for episode 66 of Before the Battle. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Jed, let the people know where they can find you on social media, where they can find your writing, and anything else you have to plug.
You can find me on social media on Twitter at Jed K. Meshew. I link to everything I do there. You can find my writing every single day at the award-winning MMAfighting.com. And this weekend, keep it locked to my Twitter and MMAfighting.com for some extra stuff. I'm going to be on the ground in Nashville, heading up there tomorrow. So, if you don't already follow the Snapchat for MMA Fighting, I think it's just MMA Fighting. I'm going to be taking over that account and maybe getting some fighter questions or interviews or some stuff, doing little things like that all weekend long. The only other thing I have to plug is a new venture. I don't think I plugged this last time, but maybe I did. If you're aware, there's a Twitter personality in the MMA sphere.
You certainly plugged it, but feel free to plug again.
Well,
Wes wasn't here. Wes dipped out early, so Wes used it for the first time.
Me and the Naked Gambler have started a podcast. It's called The Naked Truth. When I hang up here, I'm going to go take care of one personal errand, and then we were supposed to record last night, but things got in the way, so we're going to be recording tonight. So check that out. We're really proud of it. It's still it hasn't started officially. Next week will be our first official run once I get the website built this weekend after I get back from Nashville. Like I said, I've had a really busy couple of days. But, so we like it. We think it's pretty good. Been getting pretty good feedback on it so far. So give me a follow on Twitter. I'll link to it there. Check it out. Like, comment, respond. Give us any good tips you got for us. We'd very much appreciate it. And I'm good, man.
Alrighty, Wes, let the people know where they can find you on social media, where they can find your writing, and anything else you got to shout.
Social media, you can find me on Twitter at allthatmma. That's where I do all my communication in the world of social media. Also, feel free to follow me on Instagram if you like. It's at Wesley Riddle. I like pictures. I'm checking out different pictures and uploading my own pictures if you want to look into my personal life. Besides that, MMAsucker.com. That's where I do my writing. Keep it short and sweet. That's it for me. And thanks for having me on the show.
That sounded a lot more creepy than it probably should have. The whole I like pictures, I like uploading pictures, and if you want to look into my personal life, go. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know. Okay, you guys can find me on the Twitter at UFC. Always down to chat about MMA and anything else you'd like to talk about. The usual disclaimer: I don't really know anything about anything else, so. You'll probably be disappointed. Maybe I'll pull something out of the hat. Probably not. So just a heads up there. Hit me up, though, on Twitter at NickFC. You can find my writing over at bloodyelbow.com. Always doing interview pieces and news pieces and everything over at Bloody Elbow. So go check it out. The MMA Circus I hosted each and every week with Andrew Declan Lawrence. This week, our podcast was delayed. We are recording episode 107 tomorrow night. Andrew Lawrence is out. I'm co-hosting with James Lynch, good friend, of course, of the show. So he'll be our guest co-host, and we'll have a couple fantastic guests as per usual. So go check that out. That'll be out on Friday. I believe that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed the
Just
fight.
saying, Wes, I noticed neither you and I got the call to co-host, huh? That's right here in the heart.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry.
We had a good moment.
I'm sorry.
Hurts a little bit. Just saying.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. Alrighty. With that, great into the show. Thank you guys as always. Thank you guys for tuning in and enjoy the fights.